Thank you.
Is it working now? Yes, it is. Okay. Hi, my name is Troy of Is, and I live in Chicago, which is home of Obama and home of the blues. And my topic is the miracle is the mystery, or you could say it in reverse, the mystery is the miracle. And what I'm doing is I want to summarize as clearly as possible basically all of spirituality, all of psychology, all of science, all of religion, all final teachings of all gurus, and basically all you need to know. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on for about 40 minutes, and then what I'd like to do, I'll open it up for questions, and then after that you're free to email me. My email, it's super simple. You just go to troyofiz.com, and then what you do is you just click on this thing that says contact us or send email, and then hooks your email thingy up on your computer, and you can ask a question. The reason I'm mentioning that is because I have this kind of law where I answer questions as in-depth as I can and give as much feedback as I can, and there may not be enough time at the end of the talk to go in depth as much as I would desire to with some of the questions. So without further ado, I'm going to begin here. So the topic is the mystery. What do I mean by this? I mean that life itself is a great, wonderful, beautiful, sacred, infinite, happy, flowing, perfect, and eternal mystery, and that is miraculous. I'm going to say that 2 more times. I mean that life itself is a great, wonderful, beautiful, sacred, infinite, happy, flowing, perfect, and eternal mystery. It is miraculous. One final time. I mean to say that indeed life itself is only a great, most wonderful, ultimately beautiful, entirely sacred, profoundly infinite, always happy, forever flowing, just perfect, and always already eternal mystery. That is the miracle. The deeper and deeper this realization develops in you, all the listeners, myself included, and all humans included, the deeper and deeper this realization develops that life is a mystery, is what Jesus meant by the kingdom of heaven, what he was referring to by that term, the kingdom of heaven. The thing that I repeated originally about 3 times, where I said, what do I mean by this? And then I went in to say, I mean that life itself is a great mystery. I was talking about the kingdom of heaven. And that's all I'm going to talk about this whole talk, and that's all that we can talk about when we go in depth into Jesus' teaching and we look at the hidden meaning of it that's obscured by religion, predominantly mass religion. By mass religion I mean what they call, religious scholars, Abrahamic religion, based on the teaching of Abraham. So Christianity, Judaism, Islam, summarized as Abrahamic or mass religion. Generally speaking, when you go to church on Sunday, the priest doesn't begin the sermon by saying, "Hear ye, hear ye, we do not know what a single thing is." Indeed, it's the opposite. It is made that the priest appears and is constructed to be an authority on knowledge, the knowledge of God, who God is, who Jesus was, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, what you must do to go to heaven, all this sort of things. So, generally speaking, mass religion doesn't give you the truth about anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the hidden teaching of Jesus. We're not going to go into any sort of religious dogma that you would go into on a Sunday morning. Instead, we're going to inquire together into basically what is enlightenment, what is awakening, what is true, what is real, and what is to be realized. So, the kingdom of heaven, to me, is another word for living an awakened or an enlightened life. Generally speaking, when you go to church on a Sunday morning, you're going to church to get something in the future, which is called eternal life or the kingdom of heaven. And it gets dependent, it becomes conditional on whether you believe in a specific being, Jesus, as the only Son of God. However, what I'm saying is that the deeper teaching of Jesus is that the kingdom of heaven is unconditional, meaning it's actually what I was referring to again when I said it's life itself. I mean to say that the kingdom of heaven itself, or life itself, right here, right now, in this moving present, this flowing present, is a great, wonderful, beautiful, sacred, infinite, happy, flowing, perfect, and eternal mystery. It is miraculous. And in some sense, you can view the miracles in the New Testament as individual awakenings that specific individuals had when they were in dialogue with Jesus, when they essentially awakened to the realization that life itself is a great, wonderful, beautiful, sacred, infinite, happy, flowing, perfect, and eternal mystery. In other words, they awakened to the condition that is always presently the case, which is that life is a miracle, and therefore it's all good. And I think that the deeper meanings behind the miracles in the Bible that Jesus performed was basically, you could see it view it as light bulbs going off. People often talk about when students get an insight or they understand a mathematics problem or they have an insight, a light bulb goes off in their head. And I think that the miracles in the Bible represent insights that Jesus was able to facilitate in those inquiring with him, where they awaken to basically the wonder and mystery of life, which is the kingdom of heaven. This is the kingdom of heaven right here. It's the very condition of Pal Talk, of the radio, of the sound you're hearing. There's only the kingdom of heaven. You are the kingdom of heaven. You don't enter into it, and you cannot leave it. It's all there is, and that's it. So the question then becomes, well, basically, what prevents us from seeing, living, and realizing that, the kingdom of heaven which I'm speaking about? It's our learned programming, or what spiritual teachers often talk about is your conditioning, your programming, your upbringing. And another way of just summarizing what I mean specifically by programming is, it's basically, to simplify it as clear as possible, it's another way of saying all of the false beliefs about self, others, reality, and the world that society put into us. So our programming or our condition is the conglomeration of all of the false beliefs, assumptions, conclusions, and worldviews that are based off of false thought content that was injected into us by the culture, society, from the very moment we were born, when they started to relate to us as if we were a specific gender, a boy or girl. Boys are programmed to have their hair shorter because that's what society says represents boyness, or boys, or men. Women in American society, etc., are programmed to have their hair long because that's what they say represents girl or womanness. It could have been the exact opposite of that. Long hair could have represented boys, and in some cultures other than America, indeed it does. So it's arbitrary. It doesn't have to be that way. It's made up. It's make-believe, like a fairy tale, just like Santa Claus is made up. In the same way, all the belief systems, conclusions, and stories that make us think that we know what's going on at any moment in time is all a bunch of fairy tales that we internalize. And the conglomeration of all those fairy tales put together is what the ego self is, or what spirituality refers to as a separate self. So Jesus recognized this, what I'm talking about, how we're programmed, and how that programming acts as an obstruction and an encumbrance to the realization of the kingdom of heaven. When I say the realization of the kingdom of heaven, I mean the same thing as saying the realization of enlightenment, or the realization of awakening, or the realization of what Regina was referring to as God consciousness. Often people have referred to Jesus and his level of consciousness as Christ consciousness. There's a whole thing called Buddha consciousness, etc. So in the New Testament, there's an example of this theme that I'm talking about, how there's this garbage that we carry on that prevents us from fully realizing the kingdom of heaven to the degree that is possible. And there's a parable where these children would run up to Jesus and want to sit on his lap, and his disciples, Peter, etc., they got kind of upset, and they said, well, why are you letting these children run up all over you and all this stuff? And then Jesus said back to them, look here, guys, you have to become like children to enter or realize the kingdom of heaven. Now, what that means is children represent how, if you are already full of these belief systems from society, if you have a bunch of belief systems, you're going to view the world that way. It's going to be harder for you to be open to inquiring into what is outside of those belief systems. In other words, to simplify it, children aren't conditioned yet. They don't have a whole bunch of identities yet. They don't see themselves as American, Chinese, German, etc. They don't view themselves with a gender. They don't feel quite yet, I'm a boy, girl. They don't quite have learned yet that there are certain things they have to do that are right, wrong, true. In other words, there's a certain innocence in the sense that they're not fully programmed yet. So In order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to become like children in the sense that you have to, in yourself, you have to do whatever you can, use the entire world as your resource, as many books you need to read, as many retreats you need to go on, as many dialogues you need to have with other people. You have to throw your whole being into the inquiry of awakening or enlightenment so that you can see through and let go, so you can see through as much cultural, social conditioning, false beliefs, knowledge stories as you can, so that you can become like children as much as you can. Because that increases the probability that you can then experience life without filtering it through a specific belief system, conclusion, identity, interpretations, which all get in the way. Basically what happens is you're given a pair of sunglasses when you're born. Mom and dad come along and they put a pair of sunglasses on you. Those sunglasses are made up of beliefs about the self, about others, about reality, about what is true. And your life task is basically to take those sunglasses off. And then you become like you were before they put the sunglasses on you. You could see things as they are. You could see life as it is, that it is what it is, which is a great, wonderful, beautiful, sacred, infinite, happy, flowing, perfect, and eternal mystery that is miraculous. In some sense, you're already born enlightened, just using that metaphor. We're all born enlightened. And then we have these sunglasses put on us, these dark shades of ignorance, called knowledge stories. And then we look at the world through these knowledge stories. We think we know who we are, who other people are. We think we know what is going to happen in the future, and we get scared of death because we think it could be the end of everything. We think we know what correct behavior is. We think we know what we need to do to be happy. All this stuff. And the whole point is to shatter the glasses as much as you can. And that's what Jesus meant when he was saying, become like children. We have to not wear sunglasses at night, so to speak, like the song goes, I wear my sunglasses at night, da-da-da, yeah. You need to be able to become like children in that state of total mystery again, which is the kingdom of heaven. Another parable that represents the same thing is the parable of, it's called the rich young ruler. And this really rich guy goes up to Jesus and he asks him the question, what must I do to enter the kingdom of heaven? In other words, what must I do to awaken to my true nature, what you could call the true self, what Ramana Maharshi refers to as the big self with a capital S. The Buddhists call nirvana. Anyway, Jesus says, basically he said to him, you have to go sell everything that you have. You got to get rid of it all. And the rich guy took that literally, and he walked away, and he was really sad because he took it literally. And what Jesus was doing is a metaphor for saying, you, young man, or any particular inquirer, have become rich with many possessions. You've internalized all kinds of knowledge stories, belief systems, assumptions, conclusions, interpretations, and you carry those around. You've accumulated a lot. Another word for wealth is how wealthy. Another way to determine how wealthy someone is how much they've accumulated materials. There's a philosopher, Alan Watts, who makes a distinction between money and wealth. Money is the actual number in your bank account or the bills in your pocket, whereas wealth is what you've gotten out of that. So like your couch, the physical couch you're sitting on right now listening to this, or your computer or your internet or whatever, that's wealth. So basically the people who are the most identified with knowledge stories and who really feel like they know and think that they know are the people who are the most blind, so to speak. They have the darkest glasses. And as Jesus said, if the blind leads the blind, let them both fall into a ditch. So the rich young ruler metaphor means the same thing as the children parable, that as you go along the journey of life and enlightenment, you really begin to learn the lesson of what you probably have heard many people say before, which is that the older I get, or the more that I learn and think I know, the more that I realize that I really don't know. And that may be the key right there. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I just wanted to say that to me, the devil in the Bible, it's not a literal thing. I don't think there's actually literally a devil. I think it was a metaphor to symbolize the ego self, or the separate self. I think that when Jesus, quote, drove out the devil, metaphorically speaking, in people, he was basically driving out or deconstructing the belief systems of that individual, which they internalized from the culture, society. So when he's driving it out, means he's blowing up what they think they know. He's totally going to work in deconstructing what the person thinks they know. The great gurus are all deconstructors. They all take the rug out from under you and show you that you really don't know what you're talking about or what you're thinking about. And that whenever we are suffering, it's because we've got caught in some knowledge story and we think we know what's going on. And the guru is there to basically deconstruct your story and tell you, it's not true. And they all each have their own particular ways of doing that. Every guru or sort of more advanced spiritual teaching is a process of taking off the glasses, the knowledge story, and showing you really don't know. For example, in Zen Buddhism, what happens is they give you a thing called a koan, which is an unsolvable question that you can't figure out with your mind. It's like an unsolvable riddle. And the whole point of that is so that you try to solve it to the point where you get totally frustrated and this thing overwhelms you. They call it the great doubt. And then that is when usually a monk will have what they refer to as enlightenment or satori in Zen, is when they realize that life is a mystery, that the true nature is mystery, it's all a mystery, and that's it. So, for example, there's this story from a really old book they have here by R.H. Blythe called Games Zen Masters Play. And there's this short story. This is to give you a feel of basically the total essence of what Zen is, to summarize it. So you don't have to read heaps and heaps about Zen. You don't have to go on any kind of retreat. I'm summarizing all of Zen for you right here in this single story. Here it goes. A monk said to his enlightened master, "I have been with you a long time, but I have yet to grasp your way of looking at things." The enlightened master said, "Understand that you don't understand." I'll repeat that one more time. The enlightened master said, "Understand that you don't understand," with an exclamation mark. The monk said, "If I don't understand, how can I understand anything?" The enlightened master replied, "The womb of a cow gives birth to an elephant, and the blue sea produces yellow dust." Obviously, the monk at that point was like, what the heck is going on here? He was totally in a state of don't know mind. not knowing, or the kingdom of heaven. And the commentary on that after is that the author put is Emil's intention is clearly to make the understanding monk understand less. When we feel an exhilaration in the non-understanding or the mystery, we are then close to the true meaning and the essence of Zen. Now, it would seem like Zen right there in that story is not related to Jesus in the Bible in any sort of way, yet Jesus was doing the same thing in his tour. He toured the world, toured the area that he could. And he had his way of doing that when he told people to basically ponder the lilies of the field. He would say things like, ponder the birds, how they seem to go with the flow. Ponder the lilies of the field. They just flow with the wind. In other words, he was saying ponder the mystery. So, for example, there's actually a book called The Gospel According to Zen, where this monk goes up to an enlightened Zen master and he reads him part of the Bible. He says, "Have you ever read the Christian Bible?" "No, read it to me," said the Zen master. The student opened the Bible and read from St. Matthew, and he read this: "And why take thought for tomorrow? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They struggle not, neither do they spin. Yet I say that even Solomon, who is a great king, in all his glory was not arranged like one of these." And then the Zen master said, "Whoever uttered those words I consider an enlightened man." So in the Bible, what Jesus meant by hell and the devil was basically all the false conclusions that you internalize from society and culture, that you function from in your life. And the reason he called them hell, and it's a metaphor for hell, in contrast to the kingdom of heaven, in other words, is because all conclusions about life will eventually lead to suffering in some form or another. In other words, your life will become hell, metaphorically speaking, in one way or another eventually, because everything is a consequence. And all the false assumptions you've internalized, the amount of knowledge stories you've internalized from the culture, is the amount of, metaphorically speaking, you could say your karma. And your karma, or your total conditioning and amount of false stories, they all have consequences because they're what determine your behavior. They're what influences your behavior. The way you look at the world, the way you've been taught to look at the world, will determine how you'll go about relating in the world. And when we relate to the world on the basis of being knowers, that we know what's going on, we know what's true, we know where we're going to go, we know where we've been, that leads to all kinds of suffering because actually we don't know anything at all. And Jesus would ask people to consider the lilies, like he would ask people to consider how birds fly, and basically ponder nature. Because life or nature itself does not run on conclusions. It doesn't run on assumptions or belief systems. Water doesn't need to identify as water or a belief about anything. Water just is. Life just is. It is what it is, and what it is a great mystery forever and ever. So join me in the flowing river of life with me. Together, neither of us know where it is going to go at all. Isn't that beautiful and wonderful? The mystery of this very conversation. Jesus called himself the living water because he knew how to go with the flow. Jesus was a guy who would go with the flow big time. meditation is anything that allows you to feel the mystery of life more. So, if all of life is a mystery, then if you experience all of life as a mystery, that means that for you, at that point, life itself is meditation. At that point, there is no longer anything separate called meditation that you do for an hour in a specific room and or time or place. For you, all of life is meditation, because everything in life reinforces in you the wondrous mystery that it all is. And you're in a state of being that in the Far East, they've called for over
to go with the flow. You gotta know that you don't know. For example, when I was on the talking thing that Paul talked about, my computer didn't work. It shut down. Now, I didn't have any control over that because I can't control my computer. And that's all part of life. And I could experience that as upsetting, or what I could realize is that that's just the way it is. And it's all good. In other words, to go with the flow. So to summarize, another master of China, basically the person who wrote the main religious book for China, his name was Lao Tzu. He wrote the book Tao Te Ching. The summary of his enlightenment, sort of like his final statement, was this. He said, "I alone have the mind of a fool, and am all muddled and vague. The people are so smart and bright, while I am dull and confused. Those who say, don't know. Those who know, don't say." In other words, he was just emphasizing that it's all a mystery in his own way. Jesus made a really important statement about psychology, because a lot of you might be thinking, okay, yes, life is a mystery, etc. It's all one, it's all good, but I still, have to work, quote, on my programming or my conditioning or etc. And Jesus was aware of that. He made a really profound statement in the Gospel of Thomas where he said, basically, he said this: "What you don't bring forth will destroy you, and what you do bring forth will save you." So in other words, what you don't make conscious, or what you don't bring into the examining table, so to speak, the beliefs, the conclusions that you don't examine that are unconscious, they will eventually destroy the possibility for you to live a open, intuitive, happy, beautiful, and mysterious, wonderful life. They'll reduce the probability of that, because they will be diminishing the mystery, and they're unconscious. So the main thing is to bring forth or make conscious as much of the belief systems that you have internalized from the culture and society as possible. And that was Jesus, essentially his comment on psychology. And out of that, and out of the studies of psychology, what I'm doing is I'm founding a whole entire psychotherapy called Unknown Therapy, and essentially it's based in the realization that the mind, or life, and everything else is a total and complete mystery that can never be known. And the more you know that you don't know, and the more content you are with that, the more naturally mental health comes out of that. Peace, serenity. You're able to handle things more when they don't go how you think they should go. For example, when the computer internet thing shut down on me, I experienced that as a little bit of upsetting, but also I don't know, there was no way for me to correct that or do anything about that, so I had to let that just be. But if I'm someone who really feels like they're a knower and has all these beliefs about how life should go in this, that event of the technology not working how I think it should, or how I feel like I know that it should, would be even more upsetting. So to summarize my process with the small amount of time I have left, I was someone who identified with fundamentalist Christianity for a certain amount of my adolescence because I was a very anxious individual. I was suffering a lot of panic attacks, horrible anxiety, and the sort of belief systems of Christianity, like saying certain Bible verses, etc. I was doing whatever I could to somehow fight my anxiety and reduce it. I was looking for a way to know how to not be anxious. And all of that I learned when I met my guru/mentor, who is an 83-year-old man in Canada. His name is the Signposter. I learned from him, when I met with him, that what you resist persists. In other words, Jesus made a statement in the Bible, love thy enemies, turn the cheek to whoever strikes you, turn to the other side. In other words, we make anxiety, for example, and other undesirable emotions into an enemy, meaning we tend to fight it. We try to do affirmations, positive thinking, etc., go to psychoanalysts, etc., to somehow get over it or to figure out a way to know what to do about it. But if you realize that when you're really, really anxious at a particular point in time, and you're having a really big anxiety attack or something, the truth of the matter is in that moment, you actually don't know what to do about it. If you really knew what to do about it and could know a way out, you would press the magic button and it would all end. So, as I was saying, in a way, the most truthful thing you can say at any point in time, whether you are extremely happy, in a state of bliss, is life is a mystery, it is wonderful. And even when you're extremely anxious or suffering and you don't know how to get out of it, it's still the most truthful thing you can say is you don't know. Because when you're really suffering, you don't know what to do about it. If you did know what to do about it, you could get out of it. Even when you're really, really happy, you don't know anything more about life than you did when you were really upset. So either way, either poles, the yin and the yang, pain, pleasure, it's all a mystery. And that is the teaching of Jesus, of Buddha, of Socrates. There was a famous philosopher named Socrates, who's considered the most important philosopher in all of Western history. His final statement was, he or she who is wisest knows that they knoweth nothing. And another little mantra you can do is any sense of know, as in K-N-O-W, is ego. Notice that the word know, K-N-O-W, rhymes with the word ego. It's like no, ego. So the mantra is know, any sense of I know, K-N-O-W, is ego. And the opposite is don't know, as in don't, K-N-O-W, equals no, N-O, ego. So to know is ego, to don't know equals no ego. It's this little rhyme. So the whole point is to realize it's all a game. It's called the knowledge game. And to find a game worth playing within society in the meantime. So if your particular life situation isn't how you find it, it would give you the most sort of we'll call it happiness or fulfillment, etc. It's important to examine that and to find a game worth playing where you can actualize and use all of your talents to in some way help humanity. And that is what I refer to as finding a game worth playing. So you find a game worth playing by finding out what games are not worth playing. So it's a process of elimination. My time is running a little short, so I'm just going to go through my mind and see if there's any final things I want to say. Well, one of the final things is the common thing that most people face, a major problem along the whole process of enlightenment or journey, is being triggered, what I refer to as being triggered. And what that means is you will often have countless experience where someone will say something to you, a criticism or an argument, where you might not be quite experiencing them as open. You'll be experiencing them as if they know, like they're really caught in what they think they know. And what that will do is that will trigger off a learned habit in you to become irritated with them, and you'll want to respond in some way. You'll want to say something that you might think is spiritual back, or in other words, you're going to want to become angry, or it's going to irritate you. The best thing to do, to me, when that happens, is to put all your energy into observing what's happening, observing your body, the feeling that you're irritated, you want to respond. And then what you can do is you can say, I'm calling on the mystery, or I'm calling on the infinite, or my true nature, or my true self. And I am observing the programming coming up, or I'm observing the trigger. And it is in the process of flowing away into the ocean of infinity. Now I go on. And what that will do is that will, in your brain, the very pathways, the networks that hold what you could call the responding irritated program that wants to respond, to lash back out at the person, that pathway won't be reinforced. It's like a pathway in the woods. As long as people walk it, it will stay there, but if no one walks that pathway, it eventually fills up and goes away. In the same way, the neural programs that make up your ego self that wants to respond when people irritate you, etc., that will melt away. You'll go through what Jesus called metanoia, which means a transformation, or like a 360, and you'll be transformed bodily, mentally, holistically. Enlightenment is a holistic process. It involves your very neural networks. The word salvation means to make whole. Again, holistic, all one. So if you can do that, observe the trigger, don't respond, that is really a major part of awakening, because I think the degree to which you don't respond and don't act out of triggering and defensiveness, etc., is the degree to which you are, quote, living an enlightened life. Because it comes down to being as loving as we can to all beings and everyone, on the basis of the realization that I mentioned at the very beginning, which is that life is a great, wonderful, beautiful, sacred, infinite, happy, flowing, perfect, and eternal mystery. And when they asked Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? He said, to love God, meaning, by God I mean the journey of discovering who you are, your true nature, the truly true truths, or the really real reality. He said to love God with your whole body, mind, spirit, with everything you have, your whole life. Devote your life to becoming, quote, in quotes, living with as much wisdom as you can, that's what it is really about. That's the highest, quote, thing you can do. That's what you could call the great game. So my time is about up here. I just want you to know that you can go to troyofiz.com, and it's very simple on there. If you have any questions about what I said, or if you want to call me and have a dialogue on the phone or Skype or Facebook, I regularly update the Facebook. You go to troyofiz.com, there's this thing comes up at the top of the page that says contact Troy Viz or contact us. You send me an email, automatically links your email up with mine, and I will get back to you, and I'll give you all my information on there. And I also wanted to say that my teacher, the signposter, wrote this book for most of his life. Over 50 years he had been working on it. And I wrote the foreword of the book, and it's available on Amazon worldwide. You just go to Amazon.com and you type in The Delusion of Being Human, and then the book comes up. What that title means is basically the delusion that we are limited beings. We're not just limited to human beings, we are the infinite itself. And it's a 700-page book. It goes into detail, all the things I was talking about, even more in depth, and it's being highly regarded all over the world right now. Many people are finding it really transformative, and I've recently been in contact with Deepak Chopra, personal through email. He's on Oprah all the time. He's a big health guru guy. He's shown interest in the unknown therapy that I had mentioned, and this whole mystery and all that. So it's a really big thing. The book is great. I just want to do that little promotion there at the end. So I can email you more information about that book, etc. And so I just want to say it's all mystery, and this whole thing is wonderful. Okay.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. He's already left the phone, and we did record this. We'll be posting this on both Open Minds, and we'll also post this on his website, on his Facebook page, which of course is Troy of Is. All right, it's just about that time. I want to thank everyone who is here for joining with us on this Sunday. Thank you, Regina, for introducing us to Troy of Is. You were prompted to meet him in Chicago, and about, Thursday morning, I think I was prompted to ask him to be on this Sunday night. I'm very happy that I did. I really had no idea why I would do that, but you never really know what anything is for, right? I do not know. That's what Brent Haskell says. Yeshua, through Brent Haskell in Journey Beyond Words, says, no matter where you are on your path, if you just say, I do not know, that will take you from wherever you are to heaven's front door. Without further ado, we're going to turn this mic over to you, Lynn Johnson from Pueblo, Colorado. 1 hour from now, it will be Christian Lee from Chicago, Illinois. Right back to Chicago. This is a big night for Chicago, and we want to thank everyone who has joined us here tonight. Lynn, the mic is all yours.